Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I hope you're having a great day as we continue to celebrate so many incredible people across the state of Mississippi who are working in the trenches to make this such a great place to live, work, and play. Second half of the show today, Singing River Health Talk. We actually have a terrific conversation involving the GI tract of kids. And we're going to talk a little bit about, a doctor that has spent tremendous amount of energy and training and has become known as sort of Dr. Tummy, I think it is, something like that. So anyway, I'm looking forward to talking to her and learning more about what Singing River Health Talk is doing to take it to the next level when it comes to kids who have stomach aches and other challenges involving the abdomen. So good stuff there. But the first part is really important because as we zero in on moving toward Christmas, I think it's always a great opportunity for us to be reminded about the role that small business plays in our communities. And with that said, I have Leah Long, who's the National Federation of Independent Small Business. She's actually the Mississippi and Louisiana director, and she's been a regular on SuperTalk. She's never been on my show. I'm looking forward to spending a little bit of time with her as we zero in on why this is such an important part of Mississippi's economy. Leah, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on today. I appreciate it.
So, it's an important time. And you guys, I'm sure, spend a lot of time not just reminding people during this Christmas time the role that small business plays. I'm sure that's something you do year round. But it is a great opportunity to remind people at this time of year, because this is when a lot of small businesses, really make their year, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So Small Business Saturday started back in 2010. And so it's kind of just stuck. And it's a great way for these small businesses to end out their year. It kind of puts them in the right element for the first of the year for 2026. But, especially with everything they've been dealing with the last couple of years, inflation, uncertainty of economic conditions, costs are high and hiring is tough for these small businesses. So it's very important to go out and support your local business this coming Saturday.
So very specifically, this Saturday, November the 29th, is Small Business Saturday. It gives you something to concentrate on. It gives us something to remind people. But tell us more just in general about how important small business is to Mississippi's economy in general.
Yeah, so small businesses in Mississippi actually employ 47% of the Mississippi workforce. And so that's a huge number when you think about it. And then those small businesses are the ones that, support your kids' school. They support your local T-ball team. And, it's important to remember that 67 cents of every dollar that you spend in a local business stays in your community. So that's a big one when people go and think, hey, I need to go shopping for Christmas gifts, or, maybe you have family in town for Thanksgiving and you want to go support your local restaurant, local coffee shop, whatever it may be. Remember, those people are the backbone of the economy. So go visit them for sure.
Hey, so tell me about the National Federation of Independent Small Businesses, and then we'll speak specifically to what your responsibilities are. But just in general, why do we have a National Federation of Independent Small Businesses?
A lot of these small businesses, they're not big corporate companies, so they don't have someone advocating for them, whether it comes to workers' comp, taxes, insurance. And so the National Federation of Independent Business was created, and so they're an advocacy group, and it's from a national level. So there's we do have a state level, but there's also national. So when you are a member of the NFIB, you get, information on a federal level and also on your state level. And so that's important because some of these people, you think about it, if you have 10 or less employees, sometimes you're not focused on, the newest legislation that's coming through on the state capitol that has to do with mandates. So the NFIB is there to protect and advocate for small businesses. And so in Mississippi, we have around 3,500 small businesses ranging from every industry. We have poultry farmers, we have shipbuilding, restaurants, retail. So it just kind of is one of those things that if it affects a small business, we are out advocating for it and trying to protect them.
So where's your office located?
So I have Louisiana and Mississippi. So I'm based in Louisiana, but during session starting January 6th, I'll be a resident of Jackson for about 3 months. And then I rotate back to Louisiana.
I can imagine. Where in Louisiana are you?
So I live in Covington, Louisiana, so right on the North Shore.
Yeah.
So about 2 hours from Jackson. But I love doing Louisiana and Mississippi because obviously being southern states, they compete against each other. So during tax reform in Mississippi last year, Louisiana did it. So it's fun to do both states to see kind of how they're competing against each other.
It really is. And, both have conservative governors that are very focused on economic development. I've watched, obviously I've watched Louisiana closely. I used to be the publisher of the Times-Picayune and president of Nolan Media Group. So we had an office in Covington. We spent a lot of time there, but it was a great community, incidentally. But it's a dynamic, the whole political environment is so dynamic, but it's good to have governors that are really focused on economic development. I don't care if they're Democrats or Republicans. Whenever you've got a governor that never forgets the role that small business plays in the overall scheme of economic development, it's always a good thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I did see that Governor Reeves put out recently kind of what he would like to see this next session, and workforce development is a huge part of that. And so I'm excited to see, as we continue to move through the legislature process, to see what kind of bills we're going to be having to hopefully make Mississippi more business friendly and protect those businesses that are already here.
We've been talking a lot about on this show about AI and robotics and all the things that are, listen, it's changing fast. It's changing faster. I think about the impact on manufacturing, for example. It's going to enable manufacturers, advanced manufacturing, shipbuilding, you name it, to go to a whole different level. I did some research, in fact, this morning about what's happening in China and what they're doing with robotics, and it's unbelievable what's happening. So it's a gathering storm in terms of its impact on jobs specifically. And shipbuilding, I might add, that's not a bad thing because essentially they have a shortage of trained personnel. So to the extent that they can use some of this advanced technology to help them in what they do, I think it will ultimately help them deal with this ongoing challenge. This is for the entire shipbuilding industry, for all of America, that you have a lot of older folks that are in the industry that are highly skilled that are retiring. It's really hard to replace them. And so, that's a big part of that. But as it relates to small businesses, AI and all of this, something you guys are thinking about and talking about?
Yeah, it's something we've definitely considered, and it's always in every conversation because every time you turn around, there's some sort of new AI tool. But I think that's going to play a lot into workforce development and being able to continue to find a qualified, skilled workforce. We talk about that in Mississippi. We want people to stay in Mississippi. We always talk about them fleeing to Texas, fleeing to Louisiana, whatever it may be. But making sure that there are jobs in Mississippi to be had. You just have to find the qualified, skilled worker to be able to fill those roles. And I like to say on small business, a lot of these people don't have HR teams on hand. So they're using their own capital to hire and train these people. And so you've got to be able to think about that. They invest in that. They invest in a comprehensive, healthcare package for these employees. So they want them to stay. So they've got to be able to have someone that's ready to go to work initially.
Yeah, I think what struck me in the way you described the National Federation of Independent Small Businesses is people, when they think of small business, they tend to think about, small retailers, small mom and pop retailers. And certainly that's a part of it. That's a really important part of it. In fact, I would say that as it relates to Small Business Saturday, being this Saturday, November the 29th, a lot of focus is on the retail side of what you're doing, and that's very important. But it's not just that. It's, small business comes in so many different forms. There are small manufacturers, there are medium manufacturers, a lot going on in that realm. And together you sort of work to represent their interests, not only on something like Small Business Saturday, but in the legislature. So it's really kind of cuts across a bunch of different industries, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Technically, I guess the definition is if it's 500 or less employees and they're not publicly traded, it qualifies as a federal definition, qualifies as a small independent business. And so we have people that, 500 employee manufacturing facilities in Mississippi. We have shipbuilding. We have your local, someone that's a photographer that they're just a one-man, shop. And we also have a lot of contractors, and we have people in the construction industry, transportation industry. And so all that affects them. And so we constantly are watching on the state and federal level about different government overreaches that could affect their business. Ideally, we want these small businesses to, be able to thrive. It's the American dream to own and operate your own business. So we help do that here at the NFIB. We help protect them from different legislative policies.
So yeah, I think that's a really, really big part of it. When I was a publisher, we spent a lot of time talking about the evolution of Amazon and all of this, I would say for a small business, it's become everything we expected it might become, and even more. It's incredible. And of course, now Walmart's got their thing going, and others have got their thing going. It's really important for us to constantly remind people that by doing business with a small independent retailer, they work hard. They understand how to survive in an Amazon world. And the way they do that is by offering very local service, by creating products that are unique. A lot of times it's artisans that are very local, or maybe it's a very specific product that you can only get local. We can never lose sight of the importance of that. I mean, that is, again, I'm speaking specifically about coastal Mississippi right now, the role that a long list of local retailers play to help keep our community solid. They're the ones who are sponsoring local soccer teams and baseball and all these things. They're the ones that are volunteering for a wide range of local nonprofits. We need to support them. When we come back on the other side, we'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll also learn a little bit about Leah. Where'd she come from? We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. A lot of people who are listening to this show right now, you own a small business. You're headed to one right now in your car, probably. And if you're not, you certainly know someone who owns one, and you shop at one. And one of the beautiful things that makes coastal Mississippi, and really Mississippi, any small town in Mississippi, you name it, there's a retail side of what the National Federation of Independent Small Business is doing. By the way, Leah Long, who is the Mississippi and Louisiana director, is joining us now. There's a retail side of what they're doing that listeners know about. I mean, there are these unique places that we go to buy that special gift. That we know the owner. We know the owner is, a big volunteer with Goodwill Industries of South Mississippi, or Goodwill. You named a Goodwill Industry. They're giving money to Extra Table to help with their efforts to feed pantries across the state of Mississippi. They're involved in the local chamber. They're sponsoring baseball or football or soccer. They're integrated into these local communities. People who are there. That's why this conversation with Leah is so important. While it is true that the National Federation of Independent Businesses, they'll deal with companies as many as 500 employees, but this small business Saturday that's approaching on November the 29th that they sponsor is a great opportunity to be reminded about the role that local retail especially plays in our local economy. So I'm thrilled to have her on the show. But we can't say enough important things about that this time of year, can we, Leah?
No, we can't. And, I think there's joy in you go in that local retailer, whether you're looking for shoes or looking for clothes, and that owner is behind the counter. More than likely, that owner is sitting in there. And I always like to say, yeah, you can order something online from Amazon, but go in the local store. Usually it's decorated this time of year. Q4 is a huge, important time for these business owners. And go start your holidays that way with them and, get to know them. They are the ones sponsoring your kids' T-ball team, and so it's important to go see them, visit them, and support them.
Yeah, so I often say, and after Hurricane Katrina, we came to really appreciate the importance of the sense of place that we have. So much of that was challenged, especially here on the coast after Hurricane Katrina, and rebuilding that sense of place was so important. The most important thing we learned is that buildings don't make a community, the people do. And once we came to grips with that, the buildings followed. But what we wanted to do is rebuild the essence. So if you think about downtown Bay St. Louis or Long Beach or Pass Christian, or I can just go all the way down the coast, you think about what's emerging in places like Moss Point and Pascagoula, especially you think about Ocean Springs and this incredible downtown area that they had there. The sense of place that exists in all those small towns is what makes it so special. And if you think about that sense of place, what makes that so special is the role that small retailers play in that domain. They're the thing. They're the door that you walk into when you're making that walk downtown, and you get blown away when you walk into those small businesses with how special what they have to provide you, the services they have to provide, the products they have to provide you. That's what contributes to that. And you can go to any small town in Mississippi or any small town in Louisiana, and you're gonna realize that it's these collection of small businesses that creates that. It's that private investment. It's that belief in that community. It's that leadership, that marketing contribution that they make. I mean, it's so many of those things that creates that sense of place. And so if we're not focused on doing if you can buy from Amazon, or you can go to that shop in Ocean Springs and find something really unique that makes a very special gift. That's kind of what Small Business Saturdays about reminding us about, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You think about those retailers. I love Ocean Springs. I love to visit Ocean Springs. There's several clothing stores I love to go in, but I think about that when I go in there, that owner probably went to market and picked out every individual piece of clothing item, jewelry item, shoes themselves, thinking, okay, what would my customers want? And I think that adds a little bit of just passion that you can see from that business owner, because it takes a lot to go out on your own and start a business. I mean, especially if you're a newer business, it's been really uncertain here lately in the last several years. You dealt with inflation, COVID, all of that. So it's almost like when you go into that store, you can see that they're in there and they are surviving. And so they're passionate about their business, and being able to go in, support them on Small Business Saturday is huge. And so, we've talked about that for a while now. And not just Small Business Saturday, support them all through the holidays, but kick them off in the right direction on this Saturday.
I think what you just said there is a great reminder. You can build off of Hurricane Katrina and think about the oil spill and COVID and all these challenges along the way, especially here in coastal Mississippi, that small businesses had to endure. And if it weren't a labor of love, if they didn't have a passion for providing you with a very specific service, if they weren't successful in doing that, they couldn't stay in business. And it's a great story to tell. That is for sure. Leah, where do you come from? How did you decide to get into the business of advocating for small business through the National Federation of Independent Small Businesses?
So I actually grew up in rural America, Arkansas, very small town, 3,000 people. All you have are, small independent businesses, whether it was your hardware store, your restaurants, your local retailers. And so I enjoyed doing that. And I kind of did the political congressional level circle for a while. I used to work for a U.S. senator, and then got settled in Louisiana and did that. And, really decided that when you go meet people and you meet these business owners, they are the ones that make, the country how it is. They are the ones that make, your community how it is. If it wasn't for Mississippi small business, Mississippi would not be the same. Growing up in the South, the culture is something that we all talk about. And those businesses, those, restaurants, retailers, whatever it may be, makes it how it is here. And so that's why I really love advocating for people that don't always have a voice. They may not have the time to go to the Capitol and lobby different bills for themselves, or, figure out how certain tax policies affect their business. That's where I come in, being able to help them, because they're busy running their own business. They're working a lot of hours, especially retailers. They're working Saturdays, Sundays, they work late. So being able to have a voice for them is something I really love being able to be a part of.
So, Leah, when you did the work for the senator, did you actually work in D.C. or did you work in a local office?
I worked on the state level in Louisiana. So I was kind of his foot and eyes and ears in the state. And so that's also being able to travel the state, getting to see everybody that makes up Louisiana and, different industries. That's something I really enjoy doing.
So which senator did you work for?
I worked for Senator Kennedy for quite a while.
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah, I knew him when he held a state office. And always, when he would come to the Times Picayune for editorial board meetings, they were always entertaining, as you well know. And so it's what great experience to have the ability to understand sort of the lay of the land at that level. It really helps you in what you're doing today, doesn't it?
Definitely. And I have learned, through the process, business and succeeding in business is kind of a bipartisan issue. Everyone wants someone to succeed, especially not every issue is black and white. And a lot of it is, grow the economy, grow your business. And when it comes down to it, that's a bipartisan issue. And so that's been something I've enjoyed being able to see on both sides, depending what the bill is, what's going on in the state capitol, what's going on the federal level, being able to see how those worked for both sides to work to be able to support your local economy and your businesses in your state.
Yeah, I kind of miss the days where, and even today, there are a lot of bills that pass, a lot of efforts that are focused on, even on the national level, where there's bipartisan support and so on. Too often we live in this polarized world where we can't agree on anything, or at least seemingly we can't agree on anything. But there are a lot of things we actually do agree on. Those things just don't make the headlines, unfortunately. And at the end of the day, you're right. I mean, like, I have an outdoor show on Monday called SuperTalk Outdoors. And, I say that's the one place where we can all go and love the outdoors together and be in that moment together. And it doesn't matter if we're black or white or Republican or Democrat. We can enjoy the outdoors together. And I love that part. And, truthfully, when you get to economic, let's just specifically when it gets to supporting small business, who's going to disagree on that? I mean, that's one area where we can kind of get together, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a perk of, representing and working for NFIB. It's really hard to go and, tell your legislator, hurt your local small business that is a constituent, that is a voter of yours. So I definitely love being able to be the voice of the small business at the state capitol, because it's hard to argue certain aspects of, depending if it's taxes, workers' comp, insurance, workforce development. It's, we got to do what we do to make it better for these small business owners here in the state.
Politics is dynamic. I so remember my time in Louisiana, how interesting Louisiana politics can be. And certainly Mississippi politics can be interesting too. But,
Absolutely.
Selling the qualities and value of small business is the same in both places. Small business, I don't care where you are in America, the role is very similar, and you can sing their praises. That is for sure. Leah, it's been a pleasure to spend some time with you. Lastly, I just want to say, Small Business Saturday, November 29th, this coming Saturday, is that in Mississippi. So is that across the nation, actually, huh?
Yes, that's across the nation.
Yeah.
It started right after the recession, so they used that to kind of help build the small businesses and finish their bottom line out throughout the year.
So Leah Long is the Mississippi and Louisiana director, and she's for the National Federation of Independent Small Business. It's been a pleasure to spend some time with you, Leah. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. It's been terrific. Really has been. When we come back, Singing River Health Talk.